we now turn our attention to the senior category. Superheat 1 is coming up next. 15 laps, 20.5 kilometer race distance. And again, all the way throughout the weekend for the seniors, it's been a challenging one. And in this one, we have seen the dominant drivers in forms of two of them. This man here, Freddie Lloyd, for the Fusion Motorsport team, has certainly been delivering over the course of that one. So, over the course of yesterday's racing, here is what happened because, well, like we said, Freddie Lloyd, who starts this one on pole position in his first race, only finished second place. I say only, still a very good result, but the rest of them were all wins across the day. He started it on pole position, just beating Joe Turney. But Joe Turney second overall, but did win on track all of his races. It was only in the last race where he picked up a post-race penalty that dropped him down to fourth place, which gifted Freddie Lloyd that chance to start on pole position for Superheat 1. Gus Lawrence as well was another driver who certainly delivered, the same as Joseph Smith. Gus Lawrence's result not taking qualifying heat win, but never being outside the top 5 has put him on the front row alongside his fellow Briton Joe Turney in Superheat 2. But the same like we're saying for Joseph Smith, he's made good moves, the same as Scott Lindblom, Matthew Higgins, Salim Minar, and Dries van Langendonk. They all start in that top area throughout it. One driver who struggled, though, was Thibaut Ramekers, not having the results he wanted. The driver who leads the senior championship standings right now is under threat from Joe Turney. Well, going into today, we'll have to see what happens in those races, but the first race for the senior category is coming up next, and this is how they will line up. It is Freddie Lloyd from Joseph Smith on row number 1, Scott Lindblom and Matthew Higgins on row 2. David Cosma and Jimmy Elias round out row number 3. They'll have Lewis Francis and Lewis Gilbert on row 4. Lewis Werrell and Noah Montero go from row 5 and round out the top 10. They'll have Kai Rillarts and David Walter on row 6. Matthias Morgato and Hugo Armati on row 7. Jacob Mikalev and Michael Adair on row 8. They'll have Alexander Bondarev and Sebastian Korpeng on row 9. Mark Demnitsky and Ian Eichmans round out the top 20 on row 10. Fred Green and Santino Panetta go from row 11. They'll have Guillaume Bouzard and Austin Gale on row 12. Jakub Kawanek and Oscar Repetto round out row number 13. Row 14 as there, Matthias Morgato, oh dear, out. It's a flat tyre apparently there with the graphic. Matthias Morgato going no further in this superheat, and that puts him in a real risk right now because he was starting at 13th, and that puts him right to the back. Matthias Morgato might not even make the final. Well, this is very, very dramatic stuff here, and hopefully he sorts this one out. Well, he's not going to get it on the track for this one, but hopefully he makes it into that final. The rest of the field, though, as they quickly come round. Harley Keebel and Philippe Carras on row 14. Thibaut Jungling and Brunner on row 15. It's Benaldi and Lee from Matsui, from Besson, Chartier and Monza who round out the rest of the field. But for Matthias Morgato, out with a flat tyre, that is not what you want to see at all. And he'll be watching this one from the sidelines and hoping he can make it into that final. Into the tram lines, lights are green, we race, and down in towards turn 1. Freddie Lloyd takes the optimal racing line and holds on to it. Elias and looks like Lewis Gilbert there on the grass on the inside of turn number 1. Everyone gets through the tunnel cleanly, but it's not gone too clean there over the banking as drivers getting tangled up with each other. Scott Lindblom clipping the grass on the outside, and someone has clipped the barrier on the inside, and it looked to me like it was a victory lane. Was that Jimmy Elias? I think it was. Jimmy Elias, who has won qualifying heats this weekend, started at P6, is out of this race on the exit of the Litchfield Bridge. There's other drivers who have gone off the track there as well. The Beyond Racing driver of Philippe Carras, who's had a dismal weekend here, qualified so well, but his qualifying heats have been plagued with DNFs, and it's just not gone his way. There's more dramas out at hairpin number 2 as well. Looks like one of the Forza carts going no further in this one. So we'll try and find out who that is in a few moments' time. But across the line, it is Freddie Lloyd who leads the way. Perfect start for him. He's got Joseph Smith for company. Here comes Werrell down the inside of David Cosma, and Werrell gets through now up into P6. Great start for him. as the field go through, two of the drivers have gone backwards. So I think Sarabatsoy, I think, has gone to 32nd place. She's absolutely fine. It's Austin Lee. Austin Lee was the Forza driver that's gone off the track at hairpin number 2. And he also is out of this race. Jimmy Elias, I think, is he still going in this one? I think he is. I think he's got restarted, which is good to see. But like I say, he's all the way down the back of the field. And he's not far off from getting lapped already on only lap 2. Eichmann's down the inside there, and again pushing himself forward there past Alexander Bondarev. Bondarev has had a terrible one on this one. Currently running in P19, not what he wants at all, and gets up into P18 now. He's on the charge back. But we'll have to keep an eye on this one. Other drivers as well, Oscar Repetto, Harley Keeble. Keep an eye on Keeble. Didn't have the greatest qualifying. Qualifying heats, though, yesterday certainly proved to be favourable. Really gained positions in the wet conditions. So, again, we'll have to see what happens. Again, everyone on those wet tyres pushing themselves forward. The track is drying. But this is a very interesting one here. As, again, Higgins now getting past Joseph Smith. So, Smith down to 3rd place. Matthew Higgins, again, a very knowledgeable driver of this circuit, pushing his way forward in this field. But again, well, we're expecting this track to keep drying, but we don't know if more rain is forecast on the way. But Lloyd, Higgins, Smith is the order, and Lloyd is clear by 3.1 seconds right now. So I don't think we're going to see any drama there, and you can hear it on the cameras, you can hear it there at home if you're watching, the tyre squealing that's happening. And that is wet Max's tyres being absolutely shredded to pieces. Now there is the rain radar again. There's other little bands of rain now coming up from the south, so we might actually pick some rain up later on today for the finals. We'll have to wait and see, though, and see if that hits us in time. Lap number 4 of 15. We saw there Werrell battling away there. He's trying to make his way through the field. He was behind Scott Lindblom. Lindblom, the newly announced Red Bull Junior driver for the Fusion team, pushing his way forward there. Lewis Werrell right behind him for the Forza Racing team. Trying to find a way past. This time around a hairpin number 1, not going to happen. Hairpin number 2 again. You can see the single dry racing line out on circuit, but these wet tyres will be taking an absolute beating right now. But the risk is too high to throw on those slicks just yet. As here comes Werrell down the inside, gets it done into the entrance of Bobby Game Corner, and Werrell now moves up to P4. Lindblom now is going to have to deal with the likes of Lewis Gilbert. Gilbert running that rear bumper, and we've seen good results from Gilbert yesterday. Won 2 races on track, I think picked up a penalty after making contact with Ramekers yesterday, and he certainly put himself down, but did come away with 1 qualifying heat win on the books as green flags out, yellow flags out up at the hairpin. There's a cart off on the bridge, and who is tumbling down the order there? You can see it being recovered by the marshalling team. Now, who's not tumbled down the order? There is the cart. I just can't quite see the cart number there. It starts with a 2. It's a Tony cart. That could be Tiziano Monza, actually. That could be the driver from Singapore going no further in the 266, because he's tumbled down to the bottom of my list and I think is out of this race. There is Gilbert. He's got past Lindblom now as here's the replay.
253, exit post 4. More than 1 attempt to restart.
253. Jimmy Elias, more than 1 attempt to restart. Now that is not going to sit right with the stewards in this weekend, because drivers were told in the driver's briefing you are allowed to restart your kart. You can do it safely, but you only get 1 attempt to do it. If it doesn't fire up the first time, you're out. And for Jimmy Elias, that was not going to be a solution for him, and he did it again. And there you can hear on that radio, Jimmy Elias might be in a spotter bother at the end of this one. Well, he already is. He's running around in 32nd place after that one, but he might lose out on getting into that final later on in the senior category, which would be a big shame for the driver who did take a qualifying heat win over the course of this weekend. Back here, though, nearer the front. Werrell is closing in on Higgins. Lloyd, however, on your screen in the 2:27. Well, he's breaking away from the rest here. 5.1 seconds clear from the drivers behind. And, well, for Freddie Lloyd, I think he's only had one race with Joe Turney, and that race, I believe, ended Lloyd in second place. So he's not really had much time racing with Joe Turney this weekend. And, well, with Turney fighting for a championship, he certainly doesn't want to get in the way. But for Freddie Lloyd, he's going to be focusing on starting this one on pole position and taking that final win later on. And certainly with the performance that we're seeing, it's looking that way. Here we go. Werrell, Smith and Gilbert. The battle for third place is on. Werrell leading this trio as they head in towards hairpin number 2. There you can see Gilbert. I think that nose cone on the Craft wagon might be a little bit loose there. You can see it bobbing up and down just a little bit. So I suspect there might be a nose cone penalty coming the way of the Scotsman, who sits there right now in P5 trying to hunt down Joseph Smith for position. But again, for Lewis Gilbert, he's probably just thinking, now I need to gain as many places as I can right now. Let's not mess around, let's push forward. There's the stats of Lewis Werrell, who's at the front of this one. Started at P9, currently third. Position gain 6. Yellow flags out, double waved yellows on the bridge. Another cart has become a cropper on the Litchfield Bridge, and I can see the cart being unceremoniously dragged away. Looks like a Kart Republic that's being dragged away there, as I can see. That could be Sada Matsui, unfortunately, the driver of the 360 from Japan, going no further. So she's out the cart walking away, which is good. But it looks to me like that cart going no further in this race, which is a big, big shame. So back on this one. On lap 8 of 15. And oh dear, big step over there for Lewis Gilbert, pushing that cart as hard as he possibly can. Keeps control of it though. Very experienced here at the PF International Circuit, has raced here many, many times. Certainly looking forward to seeing what he can do later on, but like we're saying, that nose cone, as he tries to cool these wet tyres down as much as he can, that nose cone is not looking too secure on the front of that Craft Motorsport kart. Drivers make their way through. Let's have a look at some of the big movers down there. Biggest mover, Fred Green, 13 places gained, is currently into P8, and we saw this yesterday from Fred Green, pushing his way forward. The driver of the 357, certainly delivering. Now, he starts this race outside the cutoff area, but he has delivered in this one. He's well within it now. And I think Green has done everything he can to make sure he gets into this final later on today. Pushing his way forward. This is Lindblom and David Walter. Just ahead of Fred Green. And Green is a lot further behind. You can see him just coming through shot there in the background. We'll be seeing this battle, and any changes, I can imagine, we will see Green close in. But Lindblom, those tyres getting absolutely destroyed out there right now. The Max's wet tyres, they do last really well in these sort of conditions though still. We've seen that in previous races. I think we saw it at Val d'Argenton in France, the Champions of the Future. We had the wet, rainy conditions. It was the first time I think drivers had deployed the wet tyres that weekend. And again, when we had a sort of half-drying track, we saw those wet tyres coming in. And we looked at them after the race. We thought they were going to be absolutely destroyed, like they were going to look like slicks, but the answer, they didn't. They looked absolutely fine as we keep an eye on this battle here. Gilbert's closed in on Werrell. This is going to heat up now. Werrell's not been able to break away, and this is pure experience in the senior categories here that we're seeing. I mean, both these drivers are very new to the OK category, and well, through will go Gilbert. But Gilbert, I believe, just that fraction more knowledge of the PF International Circuit, knows how to get his wagon around this circuit, and certainly delivering the blow there to Lewis Werrell. Gilbert up to third place now, but he's got to try and break away. That nose cone is throwing the biggest risk to him right now. As I'm going to say it, I think the next race here is going to be slicks. I think the next race here could be slick tyres. But let's see what happens in this race. That nose cone is definitely loose. You can see it. It's just moving around way too much for it to be not attached. Great shot of it there again on Gilbert's car. Where is he right now? So Gilbert is 12.2 seconds behind the race leader. A 5-second time penalty adding on would add him to 17. He would drop down to around P6 on this one. So he is still ahead of David Walter. But again, he's got to be very careful right now. She's going to continue to break away. Here is Smith, currently in P5. Lindblom just behind. And again, you can see the drivers trying to cool these tyres down as much as they possibly can. You see a great view of them actually when they go down the start-finish straight. You can see the tread on the tyre there quite nicely. You can see that they're doing all right there. Another shot, and they're not, as I like to call it, pancaking. They're not going to flat, slick tyres at the moment where you see all the rubber just accumulate at the ends of it. Kind of just looks like a pancake on top, but they're holding on, these Maxxis tyres. They can endure these conditions. But right now, the drivers are probably thinking that maybe if we'd gone for slicks, we might have been in a position where we could have just shot to the front on this one. But Lloyd still leads it, clear by 8.4. As this is a replay of Joseph Smith into the corner. Look at his tyres there, and you can see the bumpiness going through there. But again, looking at the tyres look absolutely fine. So again, they'll be overheating. Don't get me wrong, these tyre temps will be through the roof right now, and that's why you're hearing the tyre squealing. That's why you're seeing the times kind of going down at the moment. No one really being able to push it right now. You're just hearing the tyres screeching away, not getting the pressure down. Here, though, Lindblom is going to go for the move here on Smith over the bridge, and there's contact, and Smith goes round. Smith goes round on the exit of the Litchfield Bridge, and Joseph Smith, he tumbles down to P7, while Lindblom went for the move there onto the bridge. Now, Lindblom was thinking, move's definitely on. We're going to need to see that back. Quickly done. That's going to be a tough one for the stewards to work out, but Smith will not be happy with that at all. He will say that Lindblom absolutely dive-bombed me. Lindblom, of course, will say that, no, I was alongside for the move. So that's going to be a fun one for the stewards to sort out after this race. But Lindblom, however, gets up into P5. David Walter, though, has now closed in after that moment. Smith on the back foot now, is in the clean air. Didn't lose too many positions, only lost out to obviously Lindblom and Walter. Rillart's a lot further down the road. He's another 4-5 seconds down the road, 3 seconds down the road from Smith, so he's absolutely fine right now. He can just hold on to that position as, God, listening to these tyres is painful. So much tyre squeal happening out there. These poor Maxxis wet compound tyres being destroyed right now, but certainly pushing well. There you can see warning flag going out to Scott Lindblom, and let's see why.
304 into 290, spinning him out, both continued.
Yeah, there you go, you can see it. Well, being called there for spinning out. Joseph Smith is the call that's been made, and there you can see the warning flag has gone out to Scott Lindblom. But here, though, on the final lap, Freddie Lloyd, well, what can we say about him? He's going to have the close company of another Briton in the final later on today, but which one is it going to be? Could it be Turney? Could it be Lawrence starting on that front row of the grid later on? We don't know, but Freddie Lloyd is certainly going to be starting it on pole position as he makes his way into the final sector now. Freddie Lloyd has delivered this weekend at the PF International Kart Circuit. It's going to be another flag-to-flag in the Superheat 1 for the senior category. Out to the final corner in the challenging, changing conditions. It is Freddie Lloyd who sees the checkered flag. 9.8 seconds clear from second place, Matthew Higgins. There's going to be an almighty wait for second place to cross the line. He goes through now, does Higgins. Gilbert crosses the line in third place. Where is Lewis Werrell? He crosses P4. Lindblom in P5. Has picked up that warning flag, though. Will be in a spot to bother. But there you can see Freddie Lloyd. Another day in the office today, and he'll try and cool those tyres down as much as he possibly can. He'll pick up the marbles as well, because I suspect they've lost quite a bit of weight, those tyres. Being shredded to pieces out there on circuit. A bit of a tough one here for Freddie Lloyd there, right on the exit of the circuit. But right now, let's see what he can do later on in that final. Here's a look at the full classifications then. It is Lloyd from Higgins, Gilbert and Werrell. All Britain 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that a sign of what we could see later on today in the final? Lindblom from Walter, Smith, Rillart, Green, Montero, Gale from Eichmann, Buzar, Bondarev and David Cosma Christopher finishing in the top 15. Hugo Marti from Oscar Opeto, Jakob Mikalev from Santino Panetta, Timo Jungling from Mark Demnitsky, Jacob Kamenek from Felipe Cadas, Lewis Francis, Leon Brunner, Alexander Chatelet, Leonardo Bonaldi from Michael Adair, Hugo Besson and Sebastian Korpeng. But let's see what happens for the rest of the races. There is the rest of the drivers. Salamat Soy finishing in 31st place. The first retirements, Jimmy Elias, Harley Keeble, Tiziano Monza,